Hello. I haven't done a video or a podcast episode in general in a while. And so I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go big or I'm gonna go home. And I'm feeling good today, so I decided to go ahead and do a video of the podcast. I'm waiting for Junie to bark, so if she does, roll with it. Roll with it. I feel like the last video episode I did was maybe on the ego. I feel like that was last summer. It's February of 2023. That's nuts. But here I am. If this is your first time joining us, me, welcome. This is my home, or at least for a little bit longer. My dogs are here. We got Junie in the back. Junie, say hi. Say hi. Can you say hi, Junie? Yeah, Junie. And then we got Woody over here. They are my comrades, my friends, and they don't really podcast, but they like to be involved in the, the process. I get it. I mean, they're as much a part of me as I guess I'm a part of them. Anyway, this always goes really awkwardly at first because I do have to record the audio on this here microphone. Wow. I literally made this little, I don't even think this thing needs a pop filter, but I made a pop filter and I made a pop filter out of an embroidery hoop with some stockings, because we here in Texas do not wear stockings. So I was like, I don't even know where to get stockings. I think luckily I just had these around for reasons I'm not gonna get into. So yeah, this might be a little bit awkward at first because I do have to start the podcast audio-wise, even though technically I've already started it here with you. You know what would be kind of funny is if I introduced the audio version to you guys watching. Right? That way I could let the people who are listening know that they can also watch the video. So I might do that. This is a real casual podcast, if you can't tell. And I like it that way, because I don't make this to like get big or like really anything besides just like for any other reason besides that I like doing it, and I hope that it like, helps someone, or also just for the fact that like I really like podcasts and I think that I have, I don't know, maybe some kind of natural way of being that makes it easy for people to engage. I don't know what the word is. But there's not a lot of podcasts that I like that are that way. Everything seems so like scripted and so like, and that's cool if that's the way that they want to do that, because it's theirs and they get to do it however they want to. But that's just not really how I roll. I'm more of like a, sometimes I plan, sometimes I don't plan. Sometimes I like to fly by the seat of my pants, and sometimes I like, for instance, I'm doing an interview on Monday and I had to do research and read a whole book and, think about engaging questions to ask. So I kind of like to mix it up. You know what I'm saying? All right, well, let's get this started. I'm gonna go ahead and start recording. and we'll do the dang thing. Welcome. It's like you're getting a sneak preview into something. I think eventually that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna do the audio and have that out for free or whatever, and then maybe have like this be something that people can, like, I don't know, contribute, like kind of like being like a patron on like Patreon or whatever, where you can submit like $5 a month or something so you can watch the videos. I don't know. Don't ask me. Okay, let's do this. Hello, my sweet friends. It's been a while. Welcome back. I'm sure you guys were wondering, where the heck is Hannah? What is she up to? We have not heard from her since December. And may I mention, before we get into things, that I had some issues going on with my podcast because I had set it up on Substack, where my newsletter is. I was trying to put everything together, you know, get it all, what's the word, you know, simplified. There we go. And I don't know what happened. Something got lost in translation, and the episode that I submitted last in December, like near the end of December, it wasn't showing up, and it wasn't showing up on like Spotify or Apple, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on here. So I tried to take it off Substack, and then what ended up happening is then it just no longer existed because I had redirected the RSS. That's some podcasting lingo that I still don't know what that means. Yeah, so it just got lost. It was like it didn't even exist. And that was very frustrating to me. So it was frustrating to the point where I was just like, okay, I give up here for a second. I gotta take a breather. I had a bunch of stuff going on like I normally do. But we're back. I had to talk to a lot of IT people at both places to get this going again. I'm not putting it back on Substack until I can figure out how to manage that. But I did want to let you listeners know, you audio listeners know, that I am also recording this on video. And so I hope to the best of my ability, when I am allowed, when I have consent to have video, which I'll always have consent for myself on doing the video. Unfortunately, the next interview I have, we're not doing video, for reasons she didn't want to do video. That's cool. But yeah, I hope to make this a consistent thing, but I just want to let you audio listeners know that I will be trying to do the video podcasting episodes for as many of the episodes as I possibly can, given that I have consent, and that I'm gonna try to like figure out a way to do more of this because I like being on screen. That makes me sound, I don't know what that makes me sound like. I like being on screen, and it feels nice to see somebody's face, but I also understand the concept of like, I really like audio, so sometimes seeing someone's face is distracting. Like I feel like I have to watch the video to listen, and I like podcasts for the reason that I can just listen. So yeah, thank you for being here. I'm so curious to know how everybody is doing out there in this crazy world that we're living in. I apologize for being gone. Yeah, I don't even know how to get into what I want to talk about today, so I'm just gonna see where this leads like I normally do. I am moving in March. I have some roommates that I'm moving in with. Never did I ever think that I would be excited to be moving in with roommates, but I love these people, and we narrowed it down to the 3 of us. There were gonna be 5 of us, and now there's only gonna be 3. So we're going to go look at some places this coming weekend. And I've got my emotional support animal letter on the way so that I can take my comrades over here with us, right, Junie? And let's see, I went to the doctor today to get an STD test because I haven't had one in a while and I just want to make sure everything was gravy. And I got a tetanus shot. I got a tetanus shot in one arm and I got a COVID vaccine in the other arm. I don't care about your opinion on the vaccine. You are allowed to have your opinion. I'm happy to hear it. I'm not saying I don't care. I would love to hear your perspective on the vaccine. However, I know a lot of people who are immune compromised, and I feel like it is my duty to take precautions, as many precautions as I can, to make sure that these people are safe as they can be. So I am continuing to wear a mask and I'm continuing to get booster shots. I was on the fence about that for a pretty good amount of time because I've only had 2 of the Pfizer shots, and then I was like, oh no, do I like vaccines? And then, you know, and then I saw the way immune compromised and disabled people were being treated as if they don't exist. And I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be an asshole. And, you know, maybe this is permanently changing my DNA, but you know what? Who cares about me? You know, it's about other people. So I did that. I'm also getting my thyroid checked because a part of me thinks that some of the symptoms that appear as if they're my ADHD are actually my thyroid. I had a conversation with my sister about that recently, and so I was like, test me up before I'm about to lose my health insurance. I am sober right now. Woohoo! I'm on my 3rd day. I keep going in. How about we'll get to that stuff later. How about that? I am on day 2 of a fast. I'm doing a 3-day fast just to clear it all out. You know what I'm saying? I always want to say autophagy, but I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing that word. A person who used to be in my life, who was also a fellow listener, actually probably one of my most consistent listeners, is the one that taught me about it. So if he, for whatever reason, is listening, shout out to you. I haven't done a fast in a while, so looking forward to it. Forward? I don't know. I'm past the part where you're really hungry, so I'm not working, still looking for a job. I feel like there's just way too much for me to catch you guys up on, so I really don't know where to continue going. I feel like it's a lot. I did make a friend recently and then lost said friend. And that's kind of like how I came to what I wanted to talk about with you guys today, is just like a lot of the stuff that happened to me in the past, let's say year. I mean, obviously the past 2 years, 3 years have been really difficult for most everybody, but and I'm not saying, sorry, there was something on my screen. I'm not saying that the past year was harder, I guess. I just feel like a lot of stuff, really, really super duper stressful stuff happened. And I feel like my reaction to it was not what I wanted it to be. And I feel like I spent a lot of 2020 and 2021 and maybe the beginning of 2022 like really focusing on unlearning things and like really getting to know myself and like what are boundaries and what are attachment styles and like, like really getting into like Buddhist stuff and like, all of that. Hey, Junie, can we stop licking, please? Please. Thank you. Finding out I had ADHD, like finding out I have misophonia, finding out I have anxiety, finding out what like a panic attack feels like, just like all of the stuff. And then, like not talking to my mom and like, the struggle of like almost being homeless numerous times and then realizing that there's no system in place for anybody and just all of, and fracturing my ankle, just all of the stuff. But I feel like this last year has made me feel, okay, let me back up. This friend that I had and then lost made me realize that healing, I'm putting that in quotations, friends, for the people who can't see me right now. Healing is not linear. Like, there was a part of me that was like, but I've already learned all this stuff. Why is this, what's happening here? Do you know what I mean? Like, why am I being so reactive? Like, what happened to all the stuff I learned? You have to keep practicing. And I just feel like I haven't had the correct, a healthy nervous system for me to practice. And I'm not blaming anybody. It is totally and completely my responsibility. Like, I need to be held accountable for my reactions to other people. But I feel like this person, that was my friend that I lost, based on, I want to take, whether or not this is factual or not, it's factual for me that this was my doing. Just realizing that I am not as healed as I thought I was, and I need to get back to the things that I learned, and I need to practice those things, and that I really need to focus on taking care of my mental health and regulating, even though that feels impossible sometimes. Because I think one of the reasons why, and tell me if this vibes with you, I feel like the reason it's so hard to concentrate on yourself and like give yourself space to be with yourself is because you see everything around you crumbling down, and it throws you into this, for me, constant like fight, flight, or freeze. It's just essentially what it is like chronic stress, where you flip the switch and now you can't flip the switch off. I'm like rereading The Body Keeps Score right now, and that's one of the things that he talks a lot about is like when you overwork your nervous system, it gets really hard you have to essentially retrain the neurons in your brain to tell you that you're safe, because otherwise you're just easily triggered. And I feel like I've been on edge for I don't even know how long. Of course it did something to the way that I react and respond to the world around me, but also to the way I respond and react to myself. And something that I've probably talked about, maybe not on the podcast, but in the newsletter that I've been writing, is that I struggle with wanting to numb that feeling, which for me means like drinking. And I think that it's like twofold. I think it has a lot to do with like my ADHD and wanting to just shut the fuck up for a second. But also, numbing myself is something I've been probably doing my entire life. I just didn't recognize it until recently. I've been trying to figure out, like, you know, I've been trying to figure out why I consistently have relationship problems. And, you know, when I first got introduced to like attachment style, I thought maybe it had something to do with the fact that I have anxious attachment. And then, you know, I thought maybe it's because I have trauma from like my past relationships. I was trying to intellectualize and analyze what I was doing so that I wouldn't do it anymore. But I feel like you can't intellectualize what is known as like a core wound. And so I was reading a book the other day, and I've been meditating, and I'm sorry for like these big gaps, I'm just trying to think about what I'm saying. All of the things pointed to one thing I need to focus on. And it's a thing that's really difficult for me to do. And it's so funny because I think like on the surface, I don't know what I seem like to other people. I can only tell you how I feel like I seem to other people based on either something they've shared with me or like, you know, whatever my ego has decided to tell me about myself, which is that I am a deeply feeling person. And I do believe that. I do believe that I am a deeply feeling person. I just have realized that I don't actually feel anything. Which makes me incredibly sad when I let myself feel that sensation. It's funny because I feel like I'm all over the place right now, so I really hope that you guys are able to keep up with my breadcrumbs. What's funny is my neighbor and I were talking, and one of the things I think about a lot is like, I don't know what love, unconditional love, feels like. I know what conditional love feels like. And sometimes I think because I don't know what that feels like, I don't know if I can feel that for someone else. And this makes me feel terrible. It makes me feel terrible. It makes me feel dead inside. And this person that I was friends with, who I'm not friends with anymore, said something to me that just made that more real to me. He said, you don't share stuff. Okay, this is what I heard when he said, from what he said. I cannot verbatim say what he said. I can only summarize what I received from what he said. So I just want to put that out there. These are not his words. This was my understanding of what he said. And what he said was, in summary to me, that you don't share things to be vulnerable and connect with people. You share things because you want to be validated. Which really hurt my feelings, because that could be partly true. But honestly, when I think about it, I mean, don't we all just want to be validated? Like, don't we want to be seen? And I feel like as a person with ADHD, if you have ADHD, you recognize that you are someone who tends to overshare, because that's your way of, like, you only overshare with certain people, first of all. You don't overshare with everybody. And that is, as far as I know, as far as my research, oversharing is a trauma response. It is just a trauma response. But I also realize that when I share, it does make people feel safer to share. But also what I've realized is, like, there's a difference between vulnerability and transparency. And the difference between those is, like, being honest and transparent is just talking about something you've already processed. Being vulnerable is sharing something that's raw, that you have not processed. And I think a lot of the stuff that I share is stuff that I have not fully processed yet. Anyway, what that person said to me was, it really, like, shocked me, because I've never had anybody say that to me before, and I don't think his intention was to hurt me, but it did hurt. He also said something about how I just talk at him. It's like not even a conversation. I'm not even asking him for feedback or asking for, like, what he thinks or anything. And that really hurt my feelings too, because like I said, I only share with people I feel like I can share with, and so I feel like I'm repeating a cycle. And all of this is linked. I swear all of this is linked, because him saying that to me just made what I learned a few days after, like, coming to it. I wish these notifications on my phone would stop. Sorry, guys. It just made all of this make sense. And what's even more ironic is that I'm making a video, and the last video I made was about the ego, right? I think. And all of this relates back to the ego too. And here I am oversharing again. This is just what I do. I hope that when I overshare, which I don't even feel like I'm oversharing right now. I feel like I'm just like, here are my experiences. Take what you want from it. Hopefully some of this resonates with you. It makes you feel like you're not a fucking crazy person for experiencing these things as well. That is almost the entire goal of this whole fucking podcast, is to say, hey, I see you. I hear you. You're valid. Another thing I want to highlight is, just because your experience is valid does not mean it's healthy. And I think he was trying to tell me this too, and it just wasn't. My walls had gone up, my defenses were up. I know, I hear kids outside, you're just gonna have to roll with me. My walls went up and I just couldn't hear it. And I just couldn't hear it. I don't know what they are doing out there, but it sounds like they're having a good time. So, and I gotta learn to either A, say, hey, my defenses are up right now and I can't hear what you're saying. Can we talk about this at another time? Or I gotta learn to lean in to my defenses and say like, hey, can we set those down for a second so that I can engage in this conversation in a meaningful way? So the old version of me would be freaking the fuck out right now because I set it up to where I felt like this person was abandoning me. And I have abandonment wounds. And this was kind of just like a fulfilling my own prophecy sort of thing where I was just like, I know I do these things, I don't want to do these things, and so now it's my job to figure out either A, why do I do these things so that I can stop doing them. Because I do set people up to abandon me. Or I just abandon them first so that they can't abandon me. But when someone tells me that I'm not talking to connect, it makes me not want to talk. And I don't want that to be the lesson I learned from this experience. And I had a friend, my sweet friend, who, I reached out after that conversation with my now former friend. I needed somebody to talk to because I was just like, is all of this true? Like, I don't know what's true and what's not true, and I need somebody to talk to me. And he always tells me, like, we all have work to do, just keep being yourself, yeah, so I am attempting to do that and not let this just completely pillage everything I thought I knew about myself, because there are some things that I just it took me 30 fucking years for me to say anything, for me to talk about my experiences at all. And then this one person comes in and basically makes me doubt ever talking about my experiences ever again. No, I'm not gonna let that happen. I am not going to let that happen. I'm not saying everything he said was false, because that's not true. A lot of what he said was correct. I need to look at it, and that's my job, because the last thing I want to do is hurt people, and I won't know I'm doing that unless someone says something to me. And I also hate conflict. So there's just a bunch of stuff I'm working through right now that I swear to God I already worked through. But I was also a different person when I worked through it before. So it would make sense that I'm having a different experience of it right now, and hopefully I take on some really new, great ways of processing this and working with it. Because that's another thing is whenever there's conflict and I feel like something is my fault, I feel awful inside. I feel like this person's about to abandon me at any moment. And it makes me feel chaotic inside of my body. It feels like limbo, because there's a part of me that's okay, I'm just gonna stick this out even though this is wildly uncomfortable, and I never know if this person is ever gonna feel the same way about me, and I'm always gonna doubt how they feel about me, because everything is just gonna be evidence to support that they do feel different about me. And then the other side of me is let's just fucking burn this shit down and get out of here so we don't have to experience that really, 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 really uncomfortable feeling. So then I just poured gas on the fire, and then I hurt them more, even though I already made the mistake before that hurt them. Now I'm hurting them. Now I'm abandoning them. It's wild. and it has to stop. Sorry, I had to pause because it gets mad at you if you record more than 30 minutes. I can't believe I'm talking for 30 minutes. Jeez Louise. Okay. Sorry, the 30 minutes was up. I'm telling the listeners. Sorry guys, I was talking to the video people over here. So anyway, I'm gonna look into core wounding because I did a little bit of research about it, and I've kind of always thought about that kind of thing. Like, I always knew I had abandonment issues. I knew that, you know, I've learned about trauma, and I remember when I initially learned about trauma, I thought I hadn't been traumatized because, you know, like, my parents never hit me, or like, or anything like that. It was more like emotional neglect. Like, that's the kind of abandonment I'm talking about. And one of the things I read in the book was that I need to learn how to move from how do I get rid of this feeling, which is something that's constantly happening to me. Like, that's why I intellectualize everything. Like, but why do I feel about this? Where did this come from? That's not important. Like, the fucking story, okay, the story is important and it's valid on its own. The experience, sure. But I feel like the more important thing is, like, what is this feeling? Like, I don't even know my feelings. Like, sometimes I think that I'm feeling one thing, but if I really try to understand it, that's not what I'm feeling at all. I'm feeling something completely different. And I think how that got there was, wait, I wrote down the whole process. Okay, so you have a false internal shame is formed from the external experience. So the external experience is like betrayal, trauma, abandonment, judgment, rejection. And these usually come from like a trusted loved one. So in my case, I felt that way about both of my parents, even though one of them I probably like demonize, I'm putting that in quotations, more than the other one, because the other one was passive. But even passivity can be considered traumatic because you're still being abandoned. They're not doing anything. Like, for instance, the way my mom would treat me, my dad would watch and he wouldn't do anything. That is abandonment. You know what I mean? So you get this false internal shame that's like so fucking deeply buried in you for the rest of your life unless you acknowledge it and work on it. That tells you, essentially, the message that's in here is that you're defective and that you somehow caused this to occur because I am blank. So fill in the blank. I am unlovable. I'm stupid. I'm ugly. I'm not smart. Just like all of these things. And we just like, we take that external experience and we just carry around this like super shameful message about ourselves forever. And when I was doing the research on like the ego and then I did that episode on it, I think I like maybe grasped the surface, but for some reason I completely missed this part. I missed it. And this fucking false internal shame message we have carrying, like that we're carrying around, it blocks us from ourselves. And that is like a really, it's a fracture. It fractures you. It fractures, it fractures you. It fractures yourself. Like you're two different people, but one of them never gets to be seen because you have to bury it under this fucking shameful, like you have to bury it. That, like Nicole LePera in How to Do the Work, she talks about like the ego and our shadow side. And I feel like our shadow side is part of our true self. And when we experience these traumatic events that fracture us, essentially our little shadow self is like, you don't get to come out either. And sometimes it does come out when you don't want it to, and not the ways that you want it to. So I also wrote that it numbs it away. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like this applies to me, and I'm not gonna go too far in depth on how that applies. It's just like something I'm currently trying to process right now, because I feel like this feels so funny to me, because I swear I was just here. I swear I was just learning about this stuff, and it's just like some of it just went right over my head, and I missed this stuff. Even though this stuff is the same stuff, I missed how it applied to me. I was like almost just talking about it in theory. But I think also one of the things is like, when I was sober for 2 years, I felt the most I had ever felt in my life. Like, I've never felt that much that I can remember. Which is so funny, because my mom always told me, she's just like, you know, you're just so sensitive. Like, you just feel a lot more. And I'm like, I do? Like, I mean, I know I do. I feel I do, but like, I don't know what those feelings are. I don't know what to do with them, because I know they're not safe to have. So like, when you get sober, everything, like, I swear, since I've only been sober for like, what, 3 days now? That's stupid. But even in that amount of time, I have cried so much. I have come to these conclusions, and I'm like, oh shit. And I think that's like one of the most overwhelming parts about not numbing yourself is the tidal wave you're expecting to come in to this shore. It's gonna knock you flat on your fucking back, and it is overwhelming and scary, and it makes sense that you don't want to experience that, because it is a lot. But sometimes you just gotta put your little arm floaties on and just be like, okay. And plus, what do they say? When you resist it, it hurts more. You know, so just like, don't resist the wave. Just let the wave take you, and you'll end up on shore eventually. I mean, unless you drown, but we're not talking about you actually getting hit by a wave. Sorry, that's not funny, but it is at the same time. So numbing it away is something I've done, and I'm curious if like this is an experience that you guys have, or if you are somebody who is really sensitive, if you have certain ways that you numb your feelings away, your true self away. And do you even know who that true self is? And does it scare you at all to peel back the layers? Because I think that if you are a sensitive person, and maybe you tend to be like a people pleaser, and you know, you've always been the person that, I don't know, helps or whatever, and then you decide that you don't want to do that anymore because it's not healthy. It really makes you question who you are, because if you're no longer these identities, then who the fuck is gonna love you? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the reasons why I find it so hard to take those masks off, and also why it's so hard to allow other people to care for me, is because like, if I'm not fulfilling those roles, then what else do I have to offer? Do you know what I mean? That's so sad. it makes me so sad to even say that out loud. Because I know it's not true, but there's just like this deep part of me that, I don't know, somewhere I learned like that's what I'm supposed to do. That's how I get it. That's how I get love. But I'm not really getting it because I'm not really being myself. You know what I mean? It's faux. Anyway, what else I wrote was protective self, so your false self slash ego takes over to disprove and distract from pain. And it relies on like external validation and external self, like that's how we keep it alive. That's how we feed our ego. And that false self that keeps tempers down the other part of us. Tamps. There we go. Tamps down. I have temper on my mind, sorry. And your ego's not bad. I mean, your ego, I try to do the thing where I give gratitude to the parts of me that were just trying to keep me alive. Like, just trying, like, don't shame those parts of you, because those are the parts of you that they're one of the biggest reasons you're here right now. You know what I mean? And so you can give thanks to them and say, hey, thank you so much, but it's okay. I'm gonna try this out because this isn't working for me anymore. So this unresolved message is just like living in your body, that you're defective and somehow you caused this to occur because you're blank. And I wrote, finding the causes doesn't help resolve the suffering. If anything, when you intellectualize and analyze the causes of your suffering, it almost makes it worse. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just makes you feel worse. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I'm so glad that this person told me this stuff, because I was trying to use my brain to get out of it when I need to use my like heart and my emotions and my physical body, not my brain, to like process this and heal this. Because using my smart intellectual brain to get out of it has been creating more problems than it has helping them, if that makes any sense. But you can't intellectualize your way out. And he says that like one of the problems is like when you're going to therapy, recovery becomes more symptom management, like focusing on the behavioral ways that you respond, like people pleasing, for instance, or like codependency, or like attachment styles. Like those are just symptoms of this core wound that you're not dealing with. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like how I feel about ADHD or any kind of like mental health problem is like, I feel like a lot of mental health problems and ADHD are symptoms of a larger root cause. And I mean, you can like trim the hedges and stuff, but if the roots are fucked and you're not paying attention to the roots, you're gonna keep having the same problems, and it's exhausting. You know what I'm saying? It's flipping exhausting trying to manage your symptoms. I'd rather just get right down there in the dirt, even though it's wildly uncomfortable. Analyzing ourselves makes us feel worse. It's true. What if trauma and shame block us from letting love inside? I deeply believe this. I think that's why we maybe subconsciously, or at least maybe from my experience, we subconsciously are attracted to people who will not offer us love. Because we don't think we can accept it or that we are lovable. So if someone were to love me, I wouldn't even know how to accept that. Yeah, I don't think I could. And I think maybe like with this friend that I had, I don't know if he loved me. It's okay if he didn't, but it did feel something similar to like the most accepted and valued and seen I'd ever felt in my life, and that was uncomfortable. And yet it was exactly what I truly, deeply want. And for some reason, whenever I get close to someone that way, it's really scary. And then I get more scared of like losing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's a great question. Trauma and shame block us from letting love inside? Yeah. Because we don't trust it. Trauma fractured our connection with our true selves. Yes, it did. Anyway, I wrote down some other things. Let's see here. And then I'm just going to sum these up real quick because I feel like I've been talking a lot. And now I'm all cry. I'm a big crybaby. Sorry, I'm not going to shame myself. That's the other thing I got to stop working on doing is like, yeah, here we go. Here's what he says. Everything is welcome. So like every emotion that you have, just let them come in. Just let them in. And you know what, when I was learning to meditate, I should just take that and apply that to this, because you know these thoughts and emotions that you feel, when you resist them, essentially what you're telling yourself is that those are bad. But if you can just be curious about every emotion and thought that you have, even the scary ones, if you know what I mean, and you just like open your heart to them, just say, okay, you're safe here. What's going on here? Tell me more about yourself. Almost as if you were having a conversation with it. I love like in somatic like therapy where, you know, where you use your body to process stuff, is like where you physically talk to your body. Say, hey body, what's going on? Hey knee. Hey elbow, you know, like have a conversation. This is you. You know what I mean? Like, I just put open your arms and heart to them. And I put they may be real thoughts and feelings, but they're not necessarily true. I have intrusive thoughts all the time. It doesn't mean they're true. I've got Carla, my ego, in there doing stuff, you know? And I can learn to separate what's valid and what's not valid while still letting myself feel my feelings. You know what I mean? I put more body, less story. Yeah. So like one of the things I'm going to start working on, and I think I'm going to do a newsletter on that this coming week, is like how, like what are our emotions? Like what are the emotions? There's an emotion wheel, and I'm sure there's like Brene Brown, and I hate to quote her because she's just a white woman, but she talks a lot about like how there are like a bajillion different emotions, but most of us only know a few, like anger, sadness, happy, joy. There's so many though, so like learning how to decipher like, oh, that's what I feel. Oh, here's what I feel. But also recognizing like the signs, or maybe symptoms, the physical manifestations of emotions in your body, like where you start to feel them. You know, that way you can recognize it as soon as it's happening and saying, oh, because if you're anything like me and you've just completely numbed all of your feelings except for maybe like sadness or anger, then you don't really recognize the like animalistic ways that your body presents to you, like, hey, you're about to enter fight or flight. Look at this. So like that's something I really want to focus on, is like, how does my body tell me what I'm feeling physically? Not not intellectually, not analyzing my thoughts, but like, how does my physical body show me my emotions? That way I can like tune into that. And that way I can use my body to like navigate that so that I am not so reactive to all of the emotions I'm having, because emotions usually stem from a response to our thoughts. I don't think it's the other way around. You know what I mean? Or is it? Do our thoughts come from our stories? Or, I mean, do our emotions come from our thoughts, or do our thoughts come from our emotions? No, I think we have emotions in response to our thoughts. I wrote, notice and unidentify with your mind's negative bias. And then I put inner victim plus ego begin to dissolve. So because we're human beings and we're animals, we automatically have a negative bias. That's just the way that we're built, because we need to survive. And I think that's a great quality if you're actually in danger, but most of the time you're not actually in danger. So if you can just like learn to unidentify from those negative thoughts and negative biases towards everything, like, oh God, this person's about to abandon me, when they've not done anything. I mean, maybe you have some triggers from the past that might indicate, because you are really smart and you can recognize patterns, but you don't know this person, and I feel like there's room to figure out a way to be like more curious about what's going on rather than respond, because that's how your ego is just trying to protect you. So if you can unidentify with those negative biases, then biases, I don't know how to pluralize that. You can just be more curious and not let your negative thoughts like just drag you through the mud, or your ego, you know? I put unconditional love. I am loved even and especially when I stumble. I hope that you found this helpful. Essentially, I just processed something I'm having a really difficult time with out loud. So, I mean, I haven't processed it completely, but I'm so curious if any of you guys have experienced these things. It's a lot, and honestly, it is a little overwhelming, but I'm actually kind of excited to work on this, because if I work on this, maybe some areas of my life and some of the patterns I've been repeating will get better, and I really like that, because I don't want to hurt people, and I don't want to hurt myself, and I know I'm gonna get hurt, but like, I don't want to be the one that's causing it. You know what I mean? I don't want to be my own worst enemy. So I hope you guys are doing well out there. I missed you. I hope that you're, yeah, I wish you guys could, actually, I'm gonna pop the voicemail in the show notes, because I'd love to hear from you guys. I don't have to necessarily play your audio on here. I could just like say blah, blah, blah. Anonymous wants to say blah, 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 or something. Also, I'm going to put my newsletter link in the show notes, as well as the link to like my tip jar and stuff. And I'm just sending you guys like so much love, and the biggest hug I can possibly offer you at this moment. Hugs are so good. And Woody and Junie say hello. And we'll have another episode with Lori Mintz coming out here soon. I will be recording that on Monday, so hopefully it'll come out next Wednesday. That would be cool. But yeah, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? Bye. I almost forgot I was on video. Goodbye.